Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB!
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio episode number 354. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
We are here this week to review and discuss 2002's Tuck Everlasting. While this film recently celebrated its 23rd birthday, it is noteworthy that the novel that the film has been based off of recently celebrated its 50th anniversary.
Yes, it was published 50 years ago. That's why I picked it for this week. But before we get into this week's film, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping from last week. So we don't talk about this nearly enough on Monoreel Radio. I am obsessed with Letterboxd. I love Letterboxd. I've been trying to get Sean on Letterboxd. It's not just the organization for me of how you can track what you want to watch, what's coming out, the movies that you've reviewed, whether it's recently, it keeps a diary of your recent watches, but you can also go back and review your favorites. I absolutely love the structure, even more so than IMDb. No shade to IMDb. I mean, I use that professionally.
Right.
I use it for research because it has a lot more information, but Letterboxd is just fun. And that's the other thing. It's not just the organization system. It's the audience that it has drawn. They write such pithy, punchy one-liner reviews, and they are fantastic. So I looked up the ones for Chicken Little because I knew we were not alone in how we felt about it. And the two that had me belly laughing out loud, I think they bear repeating. I need to share them. One was that Thanos was a better father than Buck Cluck. I thought that was hilarious. And then the other was, I watched this movie and immediately went to KFC.
Yeah, I mean, I think that basically sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought they were so funny, so I wanted to share. But that might be something that we have to do as a little bit of a recurring bit to find the favorite Letterboxd reviews, because there are so many good ones. And if you're on, I think my handle's Jackie Zoe, or you can search Jackie Zalezi and you'll find me. But yeah, no, I love Letterboxd. Big fan. Okay, so getting into...
They don't sponsor this show, by the way.
No, I just love them. I love the app. It's great. And you know me, I don't put apps on my phone.
Yeah, I know.
This I enjoy. So getting into Tuck Everlasting. Do you recall ever hearing about this story or this film? I know you had never seen it before.
So I had never heard of the novel. I've never read the novel. And quite frankly, I keep conflating this, or at least I did, with movies like Finding Neverland and Big Fish. These movies that all sort of came out around the same time, where it's turn of the century setting, turn of the century garb, kind of washed out colors. The trailer's got somebody twirling in the woods in slow motion. They all come, to me, they're all the same thing, even though none of the plots are at all the same.
Okay, so it is safe to say you were going in on a blind here. For me, my history with this goes pretty deep, aside from it starring Alexis Bledel, and we all know that I'm obsessed with Gilmore Girls. I remember vividly reading this in my 5th grade class. I don't remember. I mean, I remember enjoying it. I wouldn't say I loved it, but what I remember most is that my 5th grade teacher, Miss Cafaro, I have to give flowers where they're due. She is responsible for feeding the fire of my love of reading. I remember she always picked such great books to read in class. I remember always enjoying everything that we read. She would buy the entire class books for Christmas. Everybody got their own book just based on what she would pick them out and what she thought we would like, which was, I just feel so unheard of for a teacher to do. And I remember she had such a clear, comforting speaking voice. So I remember anytime she read aloud in class, I just loved it. And she totally fostered my love of reading. So I remember reading this in 5th grade. And then when they did the adaptation, obviously I was like, oh my God, Rory's in a movie. I don't recall seeing it in theaters. I don't think I did. I think I saw it after the fact. I must have rented it or something. But what I remember, it's funny that you brought up the trailer. I'm going to date myself here, but we do like every week on the show, right? I remember the trailer so vividly because of the song, which is not featured anywhere in this movie, not even in the end credits. It's called Thinking Over by Dana Glover. And this was my LimeWire song. This was probably the song that caused my dad to lose all of his hair. The one that, you know, brought on every computer virus. It was this song, but I loved it so much. And it was like impossible to find because, you know, it's not like it was sung, okay, we're in 2002. It's not like, you know, Hillary Duff or Britney Spears or somebody like that sung it where it was very easy to find. Like you had to dig deep to find it. And yeah, I definitely trashed the computer a time or two trying to download this song. But anyway, that is my history with this film and this book.
Well, that was an interesting deep dive. I'm sorry that for all of the problems you caused your father due to LimeWire, that it was a song that came from this film. Though, and one more thing on LimeWire before we move on and actually get into the film. What a lot of people don't realize is with LimeWire, sometimes it was those off the beaten path hard ones that caused the viruses because there were just not a lot of those files available.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And
it's not like a popular artist where the whole catalog is up to rip.
No, and then like you would have to wait like an hour for that 3-minute song to download.
Yep.
Well, was it worth it? How does this, well, only you can talk about how this compares to the novel. I guess I'll just wonder if this is just something that was very much a product of its time, and does it feel like those other movies? That on top of many other things is what we are here to discuss today. Folks, I got nothing.
This episode is sponsored by Fierce Fox Co., designers of handmade silkscreen shirts. Fierce Fox has a t-shirt, tank top, hoodie, or crew neck for every fandom. So whether it's the movies or theme parks, princesses or villains, the MCU or Star Wars, everyone will find something they love. The designs range from subtle quotes from our favorite films to iconic characters we can wear proudly in so many different styles, such as sketchbook and concert tees. Listeners of Monoreel Radio can get a 20% discount using the code Monoreel at checkout. Visit fiercefoxco.com to check out all of the collections.
It's 1914, and 14-year-old Winnie Foster lives in the town of Tree Gap. She comes from a proper upper-class family, but is more of a tomboy than her family would like. The Tuck family arrives in town for their reunion, which they do every 10 years. It is happy for everyone but Miles, who plans to enter the service and travel far away. He also claims that someone is following the family and knows of their secret. That night, the man in the yellow suit meets Winnie as he pursues the Tucks. The next day, while walking in the woods, Winnie meets Jessie Tuck, but he advises that she not drink from the water from a nearby spring. After a physical struggle, Winnie tries to run off, but is taken by Miles to the Tuck family home. There they share a meal together. The man in the yellow suit speaks to Mr. Foster about Winnie's disappearance and says that he is searching for the Tuck family and offers to also look for Winnie. However, Foster is not sure that he can trust the man in the yellow suit because he thinks that he has something to do with Winnie's kidnapping. A search party later heads into the woods to track her down. Meanwhile, Jessie and Winnie explore the woods together. She notices their laid-back, old-fashioned way of life as a family and enjoys the time that she spends with Jessie, and they start to fall in love. After Miles causes a scene at a card game in town, he is then followed by the man in the yellow suit. That night, Jessie tells Winnie that he has a secret that no one is supposed to know. He tells her that he is 104 years old and that he is immortal thanks to the water in the spring, and that the rest of his family is as well, as they have drank from the water previously. Miles, though, arrives and says that immortality isn't all that great, as he got married and had a family, but his wife left him when she learned of their secrets, as did the rest of the town, who sort of turned on them as they found out what has happened. He also feels guilt for having outlived his wife, who died alone in an insane asylum. The next day, the man in the yellow suit, yes, I did write the man in the yellow hat, and yes, I did correct myself, offers to find Winnie, but he wants possession of the woods in return, which the Fosters reluctantly give to him. The woods are a part of their very vast property. As the Tucks pack to leave, the man arrives and mentions that his grandmother learned of the Tuck family thanks to another woman at the insane asylum, turning out to be Miles's wife. He tells them that he will allow the Tucks to stay if they take him to the spring so that he can charge people for this fountain of youth. He shoots Jesse to see that the fountain has worked, and then threatens Winnie, leading to May, the Tuck's mother, to kill him. The Foster search party arrives and finds Winnie. Jesse and Miles escape, but Angus and May, the parents of course, are taken by the authorities. That night, Jesse sneaks into Winnie's room and says that they need to save May and Angus, as they have been sentenced to the gallows. However, they will not die when they are hung, and their secret will be exposed to the town. Winnie goes to the jail, and while Miles and Jesse distract the sheriff, she breaks May and Angus from their cells. Jesse begs Winnie to leave with them, but she refuses. He asks her in return to drink from the spring and promises to someday return for her, and the Tucks leave town. Winnie returns home to watch her grandmother die, and afterwards she and her mother grieve their loss. Despite this, Winnie chooses not to drink from the spring. Jesse returns years later to find Winnie's headstone. She lived to be 100, traveled the world, and had a family of her own.
So this was not a deliberate choice, but I actually think it works out really well that we're doing this on the heels of Chicken Little, because similarly, that's a short story, and my big concern was, how are they going to stretch it out into a full-length movie? And the answer is, it just doesn't work. And, you know, the difference is, I had seen Tuck Everlasting. So I remember enjoying it, but a lot of that is because of Alexis Bledel. And at the time, you know, I was 15, 16 years old when I saw it. So, you know, I'm looking at it with a completely different set of eyes now. And while the novel is not a short story, it's a children's novel, so it's still short. And, you know, I guess is sort of a blanket statement. I think this film does an infinitely better job of expanding upon short source material. But I am looking at it with a much different set of eyes now.
Let's get into this. I mean, yes, I will agree with you. It goes without saying, this is a better movie than Chicken Little. But let's talk about everything that they do here. It starts off with this, I guess it became a trope of the early 2000s where the French are insane. Because you have a teenage girl in a corset, not able to breathe. Now, this did come out a year before Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
But why is this now a bit in Disney movies in the early 2000s?
Okay. Well, I am so glad that you bring that up because, yes, my immediate thought was Pirates, but yeah, this did come first. So maybe Pirates is the ripoff, or maybe not a ripoff at all. It's just sad that this is all we had as women. You were forced into the corsets, and now the trope of writing to show that they're confined. I mean, yes, okay, it is literally visual symbolism here that you are confined within this thing, but it's like, because, you know, we're in the times of women are supposed to be seen and not heard, and their places in the kitchen. This is really the only other thing that you have to demonstrate what their life is like, because they had so little and they had such a little role. So I think that's why we just default to the corset, other than, you know, the visual, because then you get a 2-for-1. You get to show how constrained they are, but then you can also sexualize them because they're standing there in their skivvies.
Sure.
Before we get into that, though, this also, well, I mean, we're into it. You just set me off there. This is all peppered in with a voiceover narration.
Yes.
Who?
Yeah, who is it?
Who
is this person?
I understand it's a children's novel with a third-person narrator, but that does not translate to film. If it was Winnie's mother narrating this, fine. But I don't think it is based on where this concludes.
It's not. This was, and we'll get into cast later, but it's Elizabeth Shue credited as narrator. So you have a narrator, but they don't play any role in the film other than telling you what's happening. And I feel like they did this because if there was no narrator, you would not know enough about the characters because, frankly, they're all sort of flat. And I don't think that they spend a lot of time fleshing these people out. I mean, the most character development you get is when Alexis Bledel is being forced into the corset. That is the most character development you get. That and the scene where she's playing baseball. That's it. You don't get any other character building out of her or, frankly, out of any of these other characters.
Other than the trope of, her parents are trying to make her be one thing and she wants to be another. But,
yeah.
That also doubles down on the idea of women had very little. If you didn't want to get married, there's no other path for you. And that's why you feel so forced into it. This is also, let's not forget, coming on the heels of Titanic. Well, not on the heels, but 5 years later. So it does feel very much like a retread of Rose's arc.
Yeah.
So, although Rose, breaks out of it. Yeah, I agree. But I don't like where the narrator is sort of used as a crutch to get into Winnie's POV especially. That should come more from her and more in the dialogue.
I would agree.
Interestingly enough, and I think this also is part of the reason some of the dialogue is really not that great, and the women especially aren't developed that great. The writer of this film also wrote Muppet Treasure Island.
No.
But no. Hook. So we know you can slay a movie and slay dialogue, but I think that's it. This is a classic example of a male writer not being able to write to a female lead. And even though you had the novel written by a woman, that didn't give this enough legs to stand on in some areas. I will say this though, at least they went with a female narrator and it wasn't like the man in the yellow suit, for example, sort of peering in on the family. I think that would have been unnecessarily creepy, number one. And number two, it wouldn't have served anything else, really.
I'm wondering if the problem is that it's a male that can't write to a female lead. I mean, this was 2002. I mean, I think we were kind of past a lot of that at this point. How much of it is that it's, as you said, a children's novel, and you're trying to stretch and do too much with what is already thin material?
Maybe. That could be, yeah, that could be why this feels like a weak point.
I mean, if you really think about it, just off the top of my head, when I think about children's books that get adapted into major films, the only one that really does it well is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I don't think even the other Seuss movies, none of them do it as well as that one does.
I feel like maybe that's not a fair comparison, though. I feel like this falls into adaptations more like Twilight, especially with the romance aspect of it. But when you think about other, children's novels, or, well, it's different when it's a franchise. I was also going to compare it to Harry Potter and Hunger Games, but those are a lot more action-packed.
Right.
This is more like Twilight, rooted in the romance, or at least that's what they punched up for the sake of this film. And I think that's maybe because of the casting of Alexis Bledel and Jonathan Jackson, because they were such huge names of the time. I don't remember, and it's been a while since I've read it, so I could be totally wrong in this, but I don't remember the romance being at the forefront. It's a plot point, that's for sure, but I feel like the overall themes of immortality are really what the novel focuses on. I have one more note on the voiceover, and then I promise we will move past this. It opens up with, "On this day, not so very long ago." Girl lives to 100 when he comes back.
It was 86 years prior.
Clearly a long time ago.
It was 86. No, nay. The film came out in 2002. She died in 1999. So,
but even take that away.
89 years?
Take that away. If she's 17 when this happens, and then he doesn't come back until after she died, and we don't even know how long after, which would also be really helpful to have context as to who this narrator is telling the story, because you're not so either way, you're wrong about not so long ago when Winnie's entire lifespan happened.
Yeah.
More than 75 years. It's a long time ago. All right. So we see Winnie is not happy with her path in life. And then we meet the Tucks. And we learn also through the narrator that they meet once every 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, that's where, and this is where I do enjoy the story, because I do feel like it poses such interesting questions that really make you think. And I think I like the train of thought that it creates more than I like the story itself. So the question I think this poses is, are they meeting every 10 years because of their safety? Because they don't want, well, especially they really can't remain in one place because they don't change. They don't age. People are going to start to notice that.
Right.
So I guess this is sort of the hub where they all come back to. But my question is it for safety, or is it because when you have eternity, is that like all you need? And it really got me thinking, because it's like, if you have eternity, like it does. And I mean, this is the whole point of the story. It's supposed to seem like a blessing that you have infinite time to spend with your loved ones, or at least in this case, or in some cases in this story, your loved ones who have drank from the spring. And we're going to unpack that more later. Or does, this seemingly wonderful gift, does it get stale? Is it going to be the same questions every day for all, or the same conversations every day for all of eternity? And is that why, when you're faced with mortality, time means so much more with your loved ones?
I don't know. It's an interesting question to pose, and I guess that's in the eye of the beholder, but they don't say as much, so it does make the 10-year gap seem a little strange. I get under, like, once a year. I give you once a year. You've been together now for over 100 years, so maybe it's, I want to go travel the world. I want to go here. I want to go here. Okay, do that. I'll see you in a year. All right, that makes sense. So call it 10, 11 months out of the year, you're off doing your thing. That's fine. I understand leaving town because you don't want to be found out, because the previous residents of the town had turned on you and accused you of witchcraft. It's awfully funny, by the way, to me. They set all of this groundwork that the town turned on them, that they have to live in hiding, yet they have to keep their secret. A secret that seems to just keep following them. People know about the secret. So who are we hiding the secret from, and why?
No, you're absolutely right. It is sort of a plot hole with this film. But at the same time, they've been burned because the secret got out once before. So I guess they don't want to put themselves at risk for that again. But like, even still, it's not like they time jumped into the 90s with this, right? I mean, we're still turn of the century. I could see this being a problem once they get to the social media age,
Sure.
then it's going to be damn near impossible to keep your secret. But what's the worst that happened? You leave town and that's it. Especially because, and that's kind of what they do at the end. I feel like they should have introduced the man in the yellow suit following them from the beginning. And maybe that's what drove them back here.
Right, because there's no why. Other than they have this old cabin in the woods, there's no why. They don't need to continue to drink from the well or from the spring.
Right, you don't have to renew this.
Yeah, so why come back here?
And if Miles and Jesse knew that they were being followed, which they do, why would you lead this guy back to your parents?
And to the spring.
Exactly. Just write to your parents and be like, hey, we got to keep this guy off your trail. We're not coming back this year. Maybe we'll do it next year instead, or I'll see you in another 10 years. All right. So we're getting to know the Tucks a little bit at their cabin. I love the cabin. I love the set. I thought that was all so well done. And that's being cut against, Winnie still feeling like she doesn't fit in and she wants to be outdoors, and her parents are telling her she's going to be sent away to school. I feel like Winnie's open just drags throughout this. And then she meets the man in the yellow suit because he just approaches the house. He's seemingly narrowed down where the spring is that he's looking for. He's narrowed it down to Tree Gap. He knows that it's on their property. How and why, we don't really know. This is so creepy. This whole conversation, especially when he's talking about, he opens because she's chasing fireflies. And it opens with his speech about catching prey. And then he talks about Winnie trapping suitors, and that's much easier than firefly. Just creepy on creepy on creepy. Yeah.
And no shade thrown at Ben Kingsley, who plays this character, but my lord, if your goal was to make him look like a creep, you accomplished your mission.
He's incredible. I mean, what we're thinking and feeling in this scene, he's hitting all the right notes to completely turn people off.
Yeah, his performance is great.
But it's just so uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah. So naturally, let's follow it up with a kidnapping. He just tracks her down that night. He talks to her, and then the next day, she's in the woods and stumbles across Jesse.
This is, I think, I hate to say it, one of the worst meet cutes I've ever seen. I wish that she had just been running through the woods, saw the spring, and wanted a drink instead of this whole odd dance that they do. And I don't mean a physical dance. It's like a really bad back and forth with the dialogue.
Yeah, and she's lost in the woods that she travels through all of the time. So I guess she went deeper and deeper.
I mean, this is her father's property, and we know the father is very wealthy. So all right, I'll give you that much. You've got a couple of acres, but how much land do you really own? How lost could she be?
Apparently very lost in a place she goes to every day.
Yeah, I mean, this is, to your point, the weirdest kidnapping of all time. Because it's not the man in the yellow suit. That's obviously how it's getting set up. But the fact is, she ran away. And because she saw Jesse at the spring and he was willing to let her go, it's Miles that takes her on horseback back to the cottage.
Yeah. And then it's not like Silence of the Lambs where it puts the lotion in the basket. But they invite her to eat with them. And she's just like, all right.
That's the thing.
And they're eating I guess pancakes, it looks like, and they
actually looked really good. Those were some can make a fluffy ass pancake.
But it just becomes this very bizarre we've kidnapped her, we're going to treat her great. We don't know what to do with her. But now we're having fun. And on her like through her perspective, it's, I've been kidnapped. Ooh, breakfast for dinner. I like it here. She never tries to escape.
That's
That's
my biggest problem.
It's so bizarre. She just goes along with it.
She accepts it way too quickly. And I mean, I guess that part of her just has to realize they're on horses, I'm on foot. No matter what I try to do, they're going to get me. So I'll buy that notion of her accepting it right away. But I think what they lean into too much is how May is going to be like the voice of reason and the voice of calm here. So she does calm her down. And the way that Winnie is able to gravitate towards May Tuck more than she is her own mother, I do see where she would, sort of buy into May's maternal instincts because she's never really been able to experience that before. But it's just the immediate acceptance when she hears May playing the song on the music box. May has she has a wind-up music box that plays the same, and this is where she should have really run screaming, because the melody on May's music box is the same melody that the man in the yellow suit was whistling. So if you think they're in cahoots, you should have been out of there. But instead, it doesn't really register. Winnie's just like, oh, I know that, so I'll go with this. And again, May is trying to keep the tensions low and trying to put her at ease, but they keep saying, Tuck will know what to do with her. Tuck will know what to do. Never, Winnie's not like panicking of who is Tuck and what is he going to do with me.
And which one is Tuck? They're all Tuck.
Also that. Oh, yeah. It's kind of a clunky mess. And then it feels sort of even more clunky because we're getting these montages of Jessie and Winnie falling in love throughout her. It's Stockholm Syndrome.
Basically.
There's no timeline as to when they're going to let her go. There's no, there's not even like a goal for Winnie to reach to negotiate her release. Like they kind of say, but they rush right through it. They say once they can trust her, they'll let her go. What does that even mean?
I don't know, because they seem to be pretty trusting of her the entire time, because never once has she even seemed afraid to be around these people. And now she and Jessie are out playing.
Frolicking,
playing, whatever.
Look, I get that these are simpler times here. And, you're going to go for like a big visual. But can you think of anyone that you know of that has, like in any relationship? I'll even use you and me as an example. I've never wanted to run through a meadow with you. No offense.
No, I wouldn't want to do that either. Don't take that the wrong way.
I wouldn't want to do it with anybody. I don't want to do it by myself. Like, I have no reason to be in this meadow. I don't know why this is such a thing, though.
I guess because it photographs well. I don't know. Maybe it is turn of the century. Maybe we've gotten away from something that used to be a lot of fun. Running through a field and hoping you didn't get Lyme disease.
Well,
it's and maybe it's just that it's become overdone at this point. That could be the other thing. I mean, I gave you 3 comparables that I thought this movie was.
Maybe. I mean, you could make the argument when they do the swimming scene, that photographs well too. By the way, I don't know if you caught this. It must have been so cold. They shot this film in Maryland. When, I don't know, but judging by Alexis Bledell's foot, I would say mid-February. I don't know if you caught this. I know the running joke is that you're so pale, but this girl makes you look like you've got a glowing tan. Her foot looks like a frozen turkey. I'm not kidding. Like, it is like stark white and a little pink at the end. It's freaky looking.
It had to be freezing because that was shot. That wasn't on a set. I mean, that was shot in the elements. And let me tell you something now. and this might spoil a piece of my review, but good on them. Because if they made this movie 2 years later, it would have been a CGI nightmare. And I can say that because movies that started coming out, like in 2004, especially Disney, and continue to be horrific CGI nightmares instead of practical sets. So good on you. At least they got that much right. The sets and the location were great.
So they're falling in love over the course of how many days, we have no idea, but I'd be willing to bet that Winnie's gone no more than a week. Because given her father's stature in the town, he's got money, he's got everybody out looking for her, not just, there's a whole search party out for her. And then, as a subplot, man in the yellow suit decides to be a vigilante and go look for her on his own because he thinks that he can do it faster. Now, granted, he's got the ulterior motive because he wants to legitimately kidnap her and use her ransom as leverage to get, he eventually gets it, the deed to the forest.
Yeah.
That way, and this is where I wish they would have leaned into it a little bit more because he's actually got such a great villainous plot. It's not just that he wants to drink the spring for himself and live forever. The Tucks, we see them, immortal, but they still have very limited means because they're spreading out, they're working odd jobs, they're living off the land. He wants... This is Yellow Suit, who doesn't have a name, by the way. Yeah. I can't remember if it's like that in the novel, but in the screenplay, he never has a name. He wants to build a business off of the spring and charge people money to drink from it. Because, imagine when everybody finds out about the Fountain of Youth. Like, of course, they're going to come from far and wide and they're going to pay whatever to live forever. And he wants to capitalize on that. But this is where it is also revealed that the idea of immortality is not all that it's cracked up to be. Because, you get this scene where Winnie and Jesse are by the fire. It's very romantic. She kisses him. And then, just in a moment of being young and in love, she says, "I wish this moment could last forever." And Jesse tells her that it actually can. And he starts telling her the truth. I don't think that she actually believes him at first. If she's supposed to, if her character's supposed to, it doesn't read that way. It's not until Miles gives the whole heartbreaking story of why immortality is actually a curse that she buys into it. I love this reveal. You know that Miles has sort of been a curmudgeon the entire time. And especially because he's being very hard on Jesse, who he knows is developing feelings for Winnie. And it's ironic that he's so hard on Jesse because ultimately it's his fault that they get caught because he went into town and allowed himself to be seen, got drunk, and led the man in the yellow suit right back to them.
Yeah, the guy that is very conscious to lay low and not be followed goes and creates a scene in town and gets followed.
Yeah, a drunken bar fight of all things. But I think what you're expecting here is that he's just bitter because it's established that May is a grandmother, so you know that he had children. And I think that what everyone is expecting is that he just outlived his family and it was horrible. Yeah. Never expecting this twist that, especially with the wife. I think that's the most sad part to me is that she left him when the truth was revealed. He wanted his family to drink from the fountain. And instead of saying, instead of maybe humoring him and seeing if this is real or not, she immediately turns on him. She accuses him of witchcraft. And then she ends up being institutionalized for it. That all I think is so well done. It adds so many layers of depth to this. And one of them being, my thought immediately went to the kids. Like, of course you want to live forever with your family, but that means stopping the clock on them right where they are. Because now you're going to have, this multi-generational family, but you can't have your kids grow up past the point that you're aged out of. And that was sort of where my head went, is how could you stop your kids in their tracks at like, what are they like 4 and 8
Yeah.
maybe? They're never going to get to experience life that way. And you're just making that decision for, like, think about it. Like, they're never going to have their first kiss, their first love. Like, you're trying to stop your brother from experiencing his first love. But like, there are so many life experiences that even though your kids are going to have eternity, just so many things that they're going to miss out on by virtue of they can't grow older.
Yeah, and I was waiting for the moment where one of the kids didn't drink from it and had some horrible accident. You know, like,
yes,
like this is the turn of the century version of Pet Sematary, right? Like something horrible's going to happen. No, she just goes, "You're a warlock, I'm out," and takes the kids, and then you never hear about his children again. It's not like, and here's the other thing. She didn't leave. She went into town. She went into the same town that they live in. All she did was leave the woods. It's not like she took off never to be found again. She's in town.
No, but they do say what happens to the kids. I thought they said the daughter was sick, one of those old-timey diseases. And then he says, Bo, the son, he was like, if Bo had lived, he would have been 80 by now. So I'm guessing he kind of just died of old age.
But you would have assumed that if you're traveling and you're hiding, but you keep coming back, like, at some point, wouldn't he have tried to check in with his kids? Wouldn't he have kept an eye? Like, we don't see his POV watching his children grow up and then die. All he says is he has the guilt that he outlived his wife because she died in an insane asylum lonely by herself. So, like, at that point, it's not even about the kids anymore. So, this whole thing, like, I expected it to go there, like, the pain of having to bury your own child, and even that seems secondary.
No, and if they had lived full lives, I mean, of course, it's still going to be painful because you're going to experience the loss and you're no longer going to have them. But like, wouldn't that sort of balance things out a little bit more? Like, he has to live with this, and he's obviously realized it's not all it's cracked up to be, but like, he might also see the value in life because he knows that he did right by his children and they were able to grow up and because he didn't stop them.
And not for anything, but he talks about how when they drink from this fountain, they're cured of everything. If he was keeping an eye on his kid and his kid got one of these old-timey malaria or whatever it is that you dysentery on the Oregon Trail, couldn't he have given the water? Save the kid.
And maybe that's also why mom ends up institutionalized, because it didn't happen right away.
Right.
She was institutionalized later in life, and then she would start talking about the Fountain of Youth, which is where Yellow Suit first heard it from.
Right.
Because it was his grandma. That I thought was kind of interesting. I was like, what a kind of offhand thing. You're visiting your grandma in an institution and you overhear somebody saying that and then you buy into it, which is a whole other set of issues. But to me, bringing it back to Miles, he is the most interesting character, I think, in this whole thing. Especially not only because of the family storyline, but also he goes off and he goes to war. And he says he's fought in so many wars and seen so much death. And I was like, that's such a noble thing to do. If you know you can't die, you're going to help the cause. But like, is he trying to be noble or is he trying to get himself killed? Like, I'm wondering if he did this so many times, hoping one day like it would work and maybe like, quote unquote, the magic wears off or something because he wants to go be with his family.
So he's a mix between Groundhog Day and Captain America now.
I guess so.
All right. Let's move on here. Yeah, so now Winnie knows the truth. They've told her everything that there is to know. Meanwhile, man in the yellow suit has gone back to the Fosters. He's promised that he will bring her back in exchange for the deed to the woods. Her father doesn't want to do it. Her mother goes, just give him what he wants, so he gets the deed to the woods.
It's extortion. My issue with this scene, though, is that he reveals that he knows where she is. They don't once accuse him of kidnapping her.
No, they just say, I knew you were behind this. I knew you had something to do with this.
And he actually didn't.
And he didn't. That was the amazing thing.
Well,
it's just their fault because they hired literally the worst search party on the planet. That for a week, and it's not like they're hiding in a cave. They're frolicking in a field and sitting in a kitchen in a house that is there for everybody to see.
Also, how much property do you have? Because they've talked about it so many times. Oh, the woods are being cut down. It's getting smaller and smaller. How much land do you have?
I don't know, but I'm interested to know because it just seems like it goes on and on and on.
The other thing is that Yellow Suit has narrowed it down to the Foster's property. Why not just go and drink from the fountain yourself? Wouldn't that be your first move? I understand it's not enough for him to just have the fountain. He needs the deed because he wants to keep it for himself for the rest of eternity. And how else would he get that?
Right.
Because, well, she can't own land, so she's not going to inherit the property. Maybe her future husband would, which is what happens because she's buried on the property. But wouldn't that be your first move if you know where the fountain is, or at least in a roundabout way where it is? Go find that first before you carry out your plan, so that what happens to you isn't what happens. Because he's still very much mortal, and May lets him have it.
Yeah. It was a very quick death. I thought maybe they were going to knock him out and have to be on the run, but she, very interestingly, smacks him at the base of the skull with the butt of a rifle, and that's enough to do it. She doesn't shoot him, she just hits him with it, and I don't think she meant to kill him.
Yeah, I think she just meant to knock him out. But that's where the story really starts to twist, and it adds another layer, because now, after she's been found by Man in the Yellow Suit, the search party finally catches up to her.
Yeah, exactly.
And all they see is that he's dead now. So May is being accused of murder. And there's so much happening, and this is actually really well done, and the pacing is done really well, because you sort of forget, you're worried about May, who's been this maternal figure the entire time. You don't want anything bad to happen to her. She gets taken in to jail along with Tuck, and you're so focused on how are they all going to escape? How are they going to get out of this? You don't realize that the bigger picture is that it's going to be a public execution, and they can't, it can't even, even private is not going to work for the Tuck family because she won't die. And that becomes the bigger problem. But to me, this is where it's like, okay, so she can't die. Her life is going to be spared. That's first and foremost, is that Mom's going to be okay. But you all can't die. So what is the worst that anybody is going to do to you? I mean, if they're going to lock you up and study you, yeah, okay, nobody's going to necessarily want that. But no harm can come to you, which is actually why I really like the scene where they break them out of jail, because they finally embrace what they were cast out for. They're like, all right, we are immortal. Let's use this to our advantage. We're going to scare some people. That's what I'd be doing if I had this power. Right.
And I mean, that's the thing, right? Their whole thing is they're going to find out our secret, even though the town already knew about us and there was a lore about us. Also, you don't do anything to try and hide the spring. You just leave it there.
Right.
So, I mean, if their whole thing was, we have to protect the secret so that more people don't do this and use it for the wrong reasons, that makes sense. That's an entire plot point right there. That's the entire character. That's the entire family. But we're not going to do that because No. Instead, we're just going to shoehorn this love story in.
And wouldn't you think that they'd be more inclined, instead of once every 10 years to come back, that at least May and Tuck would want to stay there and protect it? Because that's Tuck's whole thing. When he takes Winnie out to have the conversation with her, Jesse wants her to drink from the spring, and he was like, you really need to think about this. I know that it sounds great, but he's like, we just exist. We're not living a life anymore. We're just here. We're like rocks in the ground. So wouldn't you want to be there to protect it, to at least pose the question to somebody, even if they, or forget that somebody's out there looking for it and they know what it's going to do? Wouldn't you just want to stop a random passerby from drinking? Well, maybe they don't get passersby because it is the property of the Fosters.
Right.
But still, you would think it would, that would sort of be the natural instinct, is for them to stay behind and then send the boys out into the world, because they're the ones who they're going to, it's going to show more on them that they're not aging up.
Yeah. So all of this leads to Jesse promises that he's coming back for Winnie. Drink from the fountain. I will come back to you when it's safe, right?
And I will love you until the day that I die. I wish that was more of a private moment than screaming it off the back of the wagon.
Yeah. Reasonable twist that she chooses not to drink from the fountain. I'm fine with that. Because she is now seen and lived through watching her grandmother pass away, and I think she realizes, I'm going to watch this happen to everyone for all of eternity. That's fine. Why did it take him at least 86 years to come back?
Thank you.
You're coming back together every 10 years. The biggest threat to you is gone. Now I'm just going to wait at least no less than 86 years, because we don't know how long she's been dead for. I think the idea is that the film is supposed to be evergreen. Mm-hmm. So when the movie came out in 2002, it was implied that she had died 3 years prior. Now it's to imply that she has died, 26 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll just be it. But the point is, like, they did all of this in service of having his look of bewilderment and her headstone. That's the only reason why they waited as long as they did. I am convinced of it. Just for that, she's dead moment.
I don't think it's the shock that she died. I think it's the realization of, oh, she didn't drink from it. And maybe our love was not as powerful as I thought it was. But clearly it wasn't all that important to you if you waited, 75 plus years to go back for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or no, less than 75 years. It would be less than 75 years because she was 70. Whatever. He still waited way too long. And I get that we're also, I think visually the film wanted to play it that way. So you get the motorcycle to show the passage of time. And to your point, that is going to be evergreen, because that could be, it's after cars are on the road, right? So the only thing that would really timestamp it now was if there was a Tesla in the driveway, because even now there's a car in the driveway, but it's still, it looks old by today's standards.
Yeah.
But to your point, the rest of it plays pretty evergreen, but I think that's what the realization is. Not that she passed. It's that she had moved on, that she didn't love him enough. She didn't drink from it. And she had a whole life with another man and had a whole family. And I think part of the look also could be she experienced what I really couldn't give her.
Yeah.
She had I mean, that's not to say that they couldn't have started a family, but there's just so many other factors that play in, and that she lived a full life and she's able to do the thing that he can't. But I do love that arc for Winnie, because when we start off, for as tropey as it is, she's not able to make her own decisions. She doesn't have her own agency. She did this for herself.
Yeah. Are we ready to start talking about our cast here?
Yes.
All right. Let's start with Alexis Bledel, who plays Winnie Foster. I think that... here, get used to this because we said it last week. I don't blame the cast.
Yeah.
I don't blame the cast. And that is true for all of them, because this actually is a pretty stacked cast.
And then some, yeah.
So, Alexis Bledel, I think she did a fine job. I think she did as good a job as she could. If anything, I think they sort of wasted her, because you make her a damsel in distress. But I'm not going to say she's dumb. She's not a dumb character. But for somebody that has been kidnapped, you are way too comfortable, way too fast, and you are way too go with the flow this early with these people. And it almost comes off as very naive, almost too much for her own good. Because you've developed her up to this point as being a very independent thinker and a very strong and independent character. And you washed all of it away over pancakes.
I mean, could it be, though, that she just likes being a part of a family like this, that where there's more overt love and care than in her own home?
I mean, that's how cults start.
Over pancakes.
Certainly over Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it this. First of all, Alexis Bledel is like otherworldly beautiful. I always thought she was gorgeous in Gilmore Girls, but even here, the way that she is able to pull off a period piece with the hair, like, she's just so stunning. That all being said, Lauren Graham carried that show. There are points where I have seen such bad acting from her as Rory. And I thought maybe it was just like the direction and what they were going for in a particular episode of Gilmore Girls. But then I saw some instances of that happening here. So for as much as I love Gilmore's, I don't always think that she's the best actress. Compounded with, you don't have a great script as far as dialogue here. There were some weak points to it. But I think that she had amazing chemistry with Jonathan Jackson. Like, I buy it. I buy the whole thing.
She was great in Postgrad, though. That movie she did with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
She was great in that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jonathan Jackson as Jesse Tuck. Known as a soap opera actor for the most part. Known for General Hospital.
And one more. Boy Meets World.
Sure.
After Corey kisses Lauren, this is Topanga's kiss that makes her realize she's going to go back to Corey. We all hated Jonathan Jackson for like a year, but we forgave him.
So, what's interesting about him, he's got a very timeless look.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see him in 1914, right? But then you also see him in present day. We'll call it the early 2000s, present day. But he has a very timeless look to him, and it doesn't matter what kind of clothing you put him in, it works.
Especially with the hair. I'm so glad they didn't give him like a late 90s, 2000s haircut to really timestamp it, because to your point before, then it would feel even less evergreen. Yeah, I think he does a great job. Like I said, their chemistry is wonderful. I think that there's a couple of like cheeseball moments, but also he's a 17-year-old kid that has lived through so many different eras and so many different societal norms. That's kind of another interesting thing is like, you could have so many different personalities throughout the ages because of how society changes. But anyway, I think for what this is, do I think he's a great leading man? No, but for a teenage romance, yes.
You've got Scott Bairstow as Miles. He's got that brooding presence. He likely is the most interesting character in the film. I thought for what he provided, it was fine.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, like, something is up with him because it's not a still waters run deep quality. It's something is bubbling under the surface. Something is deeply bothering him. And the reveal and the emotion of his reveal, I don't think his performance gets nearly the credit that it deserves. He's hands down the most interesting character. But I think there are bigger names in this movie that sort of overshadow him, but I think he gives the best performance, truly.
I think the best performance goes to Ben Kingsley, who plays the man in the yellow suit. Because Ben Kingsley is just immensely talented in just about everything that he does. And as creepy as this character is, it works because of his performance.
He's one of those Swiss Army knife actors that can do literally anything that is thrown at him. And yeah, the character is so creepy and disgusting, but like, that's not his fault. It's because it is his fault. It's because he did it right. It's exactly what you need it to be. Maybe a little bit too far, but yeah, no, he's incredible. I just feel bad that, he wanted to spend all of eternity with that unfortunate haircut.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. William Hurt and Sissy Spacek play Angus and May Tuck. I mean, what else do you say? We know how talented both of them are, specifically Sissy Spacek. Unfortunately, they could have just about been anybody. And that's not because their performances aren't good. It's because the characters are so poorly written.
I would agree. Well, except for Tuck, he has a really good moment when he takes Winnie out on the lake for the conversation. But that's the most that you get out of him, and they hold it for so long. I wish we had seen a little bit more about the family dynamic with them. Like, obviously they all love each other, they all care for each other, but like, I wish they had unpacked their marriage a little bit more and what it is like to be in it for all eternity. Like, when everybody's young and in love, it's like you got the thing that everybody wishes for. So what is that really like when you're with the same person every day and it's just never going to stop, Like, right. I wish that they had really played with that.
Then you've got Amy Irving and Victor Garber as Betsy and Robert Foster. These are Winnie's parents. Victor Garber's done a considerable amount of Disney films. We know he's really good. And Amy Irving, I think she did a really good job sort of being that detached mother that later feels that regret as she's mourning the death of her own mother. So I think for that much, it worked. They were pretty good.
I think that they were even better in some ways than as characters. They're better than the Tucks because they do a lot more. With Robert Foster, he's not just trying to flex with, I have all the money in the world, I don't care what it costs to find my daughter. Really, that comes from Winnie's mother, who's throwing the money around and whatever it takes to find her. He's more the concerned parent that is truly concerned for her well-being. Meanwhile, her mother is just sort of wringing her hands of how could this happen, and like never really addresses the root of the problem until she loses her own mother, that like she did drive Winnie away. But you're right. It's those quiet moments that she does so much with, that her dialogue at the beginning where she's constantly calling Winnie back to the house and don't do this and you need to be this way, that all gets annoying, that all gets tropey, and I think that has to do with the writing. But it's those quiet moments where she has no dialogue that I think are the most impressive. I absolutely love her. I think she, out of everybody, looks the part the most with the hair and the Victorian clothes. She pulls it off. And really fun fact, this is a Carrie reunion because she played Sue Snell in Carrie. Even though she has no screen time with Sissy Spacek, I just thought that was so much fun.
All right, final thoughts on Tuck Everlasting. I'll go ahead and go first. This movie was made in 2002, but it feels like it got made in 1992. Unfortunately, the stacked cast is wasted on a very thin plot that leaves more questions than answers, and it is not one that I will likely ever watch again.
In all fairness, you were not exactly the target demo for this film.
I'm not the target demo for a lot of film. We're a Disney film podcast. I am a near middle-aged man. I am not in the target demographic for zombies, and yet I think it's excellent. I think that a bad movie is a bad movie, and a good movie is a good movie.
Fair. No, and I do sort of agree. You know, this is not the same movie that I watched when I was 16 years old. You know, that's not to say that it doesn't hold up, but I think I was definitely a little bit more enamored with it back then. I do remember when I first saw it, it left me wanting a little bit more because the trailer, and again, it was that song, it built up so much and the trailer just like swelled. I thought it was really going to be so much more of an epic love story. And it is in the sense of, you know, when you think of it in terms of how long it spanned over and that he was still holding the torch for her, sure. But I think the idea of that is a lot more romantic when you're 16 as opposed to looking at it now. I appreciate this film more for the way that it's shot because the cinematography is absolutely beautiful, and more so for the questions that the story itself poses. This is one, again, like I said, it's not that it doesn't hold up. It's that the story sort of outshines the film, which is really a credit to the original novel because that's truly what is standing the test of time here.
We want to know what you have to say about Tuck Everlasting. You can let us know on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first a quick break. Now that we live in Florida and spend a lot more time in Disney World, you know that we love to share our park experiences with you, especially in our dockside chats. However, telling you about our personal experience during a park day while sipping on a margarita is not the same thing as getting travel advice from a professional, which is why you should reach out to Jackie when planning your next vacation. Her assistance is complimentary, and I promise she can tell you a lot more than where to find the best margaritas. Visit kmvtravel.com/Jackie to join us in sunny Florida. Cheers. It came out this week that there is a Miss Piggy film in development. Jennifer Lawrence, Emma Stone, and Cole Escola are going to be heading up this project.
The fact that we just said that there's a Miss Piggy film in production fills my heart with joy. And a little bit of trepidation, I'm not going to lie, because we have been saying for years that Disney has no idea what to do with the Muppets and that Jason Segel was the last person who had any clue what to do with them. If there's going to be anyone else, I love this. I trust these two. I think they're going to knock it out of the park. And I love that it's going to be Miss Piggy centric. You know, I think we all love Piggy because she's so shallow and materialistic and it's hilarious and it's what works. But I think sort of restructuring to make her the main character instead of focusing on Kermit putting on a show, I think this is going to be such a breath of fresh air and a great spin. I think this is going to be really, really great. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.